Britta with Bestop's marketing team, and today we're going to show you how to install our PowerBoards. PowerBoards are actually one of my favorite products. They're really cool. They're basically electric running boards that tuck up underneath your truck when you don't need them, but as soon as you open the door to get in or out of your truck, they come down to the perfect stepping height. Today we're going to show you how to install them on this 2005 F350 Super Duty. And the install is not that difficult, but there's a few tricky parts, so we have a team of people here to help. We've got Jimmy, Jose, and Jeff. And as you can see, we could definitely use some PowerBoards on this truck. This gentleman here is Jimmy Robertson. He's been working at Bestop for almost 30 years, and about 15 of those years he's been doing engineering work, working on product development for Bestop. And he even has a few patents under his belt. So you can imagine he's definitely the technical expert, especially when it comes to our PowerBoards. And we want to make sure that he's there to help you with any questions.
And the great thing about calling Bestop's 800 number is that the phone call comes directly to my desk. I can help you right away. You don't get lost in a queue.
That's right. So basically you call the 800 number and this expert here is there to help.
So Jose, I see you've got everything all set up already.
Yeah, I like to set everything out over here, all the parts, make sure that everything is here and we're not missing anything.
Are we missing anything?
No, everything is here.
Awesome. So what do we got?
We've got the idler links, the motor links.
Wait, so the idler link is going to control the board, but there's no motor to it.
Correct.
Hence and then this one has the gear for the motor.
Correct.
Got it.
And then we've got the motors.
Excellent.
We've got the controller.
It's just kind of like the brains of the whole operation.
Correct. And then we've got all the nuts and bolts. We've got all the electrical connectors that we need to install and the lighting.
Cool. And of course the wiring harness.
Wiring harness, yep.
Excellent. So what do we need now?
Just get all our tools together. We've got all our tools over here that we need. I usually just go on the install instructions and see what tools that we need to use and make sure that we've got them.
So what's this?
That one right there is just a little nylon piece that I use to take off door panels.
Oh, so you can do the door panels without scratching everything up.
Correct.
Awesome. Wire
cutters.
Yeah. Pretty standard stuff.
Yes.
Well, let's get the truck in on the lift and install a board.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
Here you go, Jose.
Thank you.
We're going to break this down into 4 sections. Putting the boards on the truck, putting the wiring under the hood, putting the wiring under the truck, and then last, going inside the truck for wiring.
Okay, so I got your arms.
Yep.
Or idler and motor linkage.
Okay, this motor goes to the rear.
Motor goes in the back.
Yep.
All right.
Idler goes to the front. Okay.
And?
Okay, the idler goes on the second set of holes. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so what we got to do is we got to get this clips. Install them from the bottom side over here.
Okay.
Okay.
And this one's going to mount right here?
Yes. So you got to crawl underneath here and mount them. They got little cutouts, little slots.
Pro tip, leave your linkages loose so that after the board is installed we can adjust it. On certain vehicles, instead of using the clip nut that we've used, we'll use a riv nut. And it's important to make sure that this riv nut gets compressed or crushed all the way so that you don't run into problems with your installation later on. For a safety tip, make sure you remove the fuse from the harness before you start installing the wiring.
Okay, Jose, I got the wiring harness for you.
All right, thank you. All right, we've got the wiring harness here. And the wiring harness is
Tangled?
tangled, of course, untangle it. But on the wiring harness, we've got several lengths. We've got a longer one and a shorter one. Rule of thumb is the shorter one always goes on the side of the battery.
Okay.
Okay, so that would go in this side right over here.
Yep.
And this just goes right above that way, right there. That's the short end right there, okay. The longer end will go across the engine bay so that it'll go down through the fenders on the inner fenders. Okay, got that like that?
Right.
All right. So the next step is to get the controller. Okay, we've got the controller over here. Okay.
So where's that go?
That's going to go right over here in this area. Find yourself a good area where you could mount it out of the way. Tight in place right there. And we're going to get the wiring loom and just tie that down. Keep it from rattling and all that good stuff. What I'm looking for now is the short end of the wiring, which we're going to run down on the fender wells. And you just try to find a good area where you can just run all your wiring down on both sides. When you're running your wiring down the fender wells, on the inner fender wells I should say, make sure that you stay away from any exhaust systems or anything like that. That's anything that gets hot, that way keeps anything from burning up. Okay, we're going to start hooking up the wiring onto the battery. What I personally do is I like to get my wire cutters and I cut an area out like that right there on both the wires. That way when you install it onto your battery, you don't have to take your nut off of your cables all the way out. So
So it keeps the electricity running to the truck.
exactly. Loosen up the nut on it, and I'll put this right in there, like so. Tighten it up. The black wire will go to the negative side of the battery.
There's a certain number of trucks that were built from the model year 2002 to 2003 that for some reason they operate backwards. So if you find that this is the issue, call me and I will send you a controller that will fix that problem.
Reach underneath your wheel wells where your wires came through and pull your wiring through. And usually it's pretty easy just going from the outside. And just pull all the wires that you need coming through. Okay, after we've run this wiring down the firewall, what we're doing is going to bring it back over here and just lay them right over here. This purple wires that we've got hanging right over here is going to go from the bottom of the floorboard. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take off the seal plate, which is up inside.
Oh, so the purple ones are going to go back inside the cab.
Correct, correct.
And that's going to go to the door controls.
Yes.
Okay.
We've got the wires that go up in there. So what we got to do next is take off the seal plate over here and then the kick panel.
And find some way of getting these wires
Yes,
inside the truck.
There's a rubber grommet that goes down in there, so you could just run it through the
All right.
rubber grommet.
And so this one is obviously going to go to the motors and the light.
Correct. And we won't worry about tying those down until we've got all the wiring already wired up and everything like that.
Okay.
Okay?
So these, we have to find the grommet that these go through.
Correct. But first we've got to take off the door seal plate and also the kick panel.
Well, let's do that.
Okay? What are you doing, Jeff?
So this is the sill plate and this is the kick panel?
Yes, yes. On this particular model of truck, the only thing that we've got to take off is the seal plate on the passenger side.
So this has to come off?
Yes.
How does
it
that happen?
First thing I need you to do is get out of my way.
Do it.
And what you do is just lift up the edge right over here and just pick it up like so. and it should come right off. Just move that off to the side where it's out of the way, and then the wire that we got to get to will be right over here. But first what we got to do is remove any floor mats that are in there. And then what I like to do is I like to kind of pick up this carpet right over here and look for a grommet and pull the grommet off, and you can run your wiring from the bottom up through this hole right over here. Okay, so what we'll do is if you want to run those 2 wires up into that grommet hole. Perfect, and just pull that wire through the wires. Okay. Okay, we just pull it like that right there, okay? Now you got your wires through, so what I like to do is just I'd like to put this grommet back on there and put it back in place like that right there.
So this is the part that a lot of people get confused by, especially if you're colorblind, I guess, right?
Right.
Out of all of those, what, 20, 30 wires, you need to find the proper one to
hook
splice
up into.
into.
Yes, that's correct.
Which wire is it?
Well, let's take a look at the install instructions. It'll tell us which wire.
Installation.
Yes.
All right. Jose, according to the instructions, you need a pink wire with a light blue stripe.
Correct.
And then for the front door, you need a gray with a red stripe.
Correct. So what you do is look up in here into your wire bundle, and if you see it, it's split up, and some of it goes underneath the seat. So that's going to signify whether it's the front and rear. So on that instruction,
Okay,
it says
so the instruction guide says rear of truck, front of truck.
correct.
That's easy.
Correct. So here we found the pink wire with the blue stripe right over here. So this will be the wire that we'll be using. Okay, we found the pink wire with the blue stripe that goes to the rear, and we're going to put this this connectors right over here.
So this lets you connect to the wire without actually cutting and splicing and
Correct.
soldering and wrapping.
That is correct.
Well, that's clever.
So what you do is just unscrew it, and it's got a little groove right in there. And what you do is to get that groove, put it through the wire that it calls for, put it in like this. This other piece right over here has got a little pokey piece right over here.
Pokey piece. Is that
Pokey
the
piece.
official?
Yeah, it's like Pokemon, but it's pokey piece.
And that's obviously going to splice into the wire. And
Correct. You tighten it up onto, right over here, it screws into itself right here, and you tighten it up, and bingo, you're spliced in right there. On this particular model of a truck installation, it's got 2 purple wires with black stripes, so it doesn't make a difference which wire that you grab to use.
So one of these is designed for the back door, one of them is for the front door.
That is correct.
And on this application, you don't care which is which.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up to it, about right there, okay? And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cut it, because it comes with the wires that are really long.
Plenty of wire.
Plenty of wire. And then what I do is I just, I'm going to get my crimpers right over here and put those right there like that. And what I do is I just loosen this up, put this cap right over here, through this right here, which goes through this right here. And you tighten it up. As you're tightening it up, it tightens the wire and everything like that. And then we're done with that right there.
All right.
Okay. So now we're going to do the front one, and the front one calls for a gray wire with a red stripe.
Yes.
Okay, now that we found this gray wire with a red stripe, we're going to do the same with this connectors. Put it in and screw it right back into there so it'll pinch in between there and pokes the wire. So then what we're going to do is get the other wire, measure it out a little bit, cut it, I'm going to expose some wire like so. I usually go about anywhere from 3/8 to a 1/2 inch. Okay, so we're going to go with this right here and start tightening that baby up. And we're done right there.
So passenger side, inside wiring is done.
Right. Next step is going to be going to the driver's side. But first what I like to do is I like to put everything back into place. If you pulled up any carpet just to get to that grommet, I put it back in place and I grab the seal plate, make sure all your wiring is out of the way, which it is, and make sure that you got the clips that go right in here in the right direction. Line them up and put them back into place. We are done on that side.
In most cases, the wiring and the instruction sheet will match, but every once in a while you will find variations due to building variation in the manufacturer or somebody who's modified the vehicle. If you find the wiring from the instruction guide does not match what your truck has, then you're going to have to use a test meter. And what you will find is that when the door is opened, the wire that you're looking for will show a ground signal. When the door is closed, the wire should show an open signal. What the easiest way to do is take one end of your lead to go to a known ground, such as this metal piece in the door, and then take one of your wire taps, penetrate each wire, and then take the other end and touch the open end of it, and then see what your meter reading is, and have somebody help you open and close the doors to make sure that the wire changes.
Jose, on this side, you actually need to take the whole door panel off?
Yes, I do. On the driver's side, on this Ford application does call for you to take off the door panel.
So is that hard to do?
No, it's not. It's not really hard. A lot of people get intimidated, but there's a few tips that I could give you guys on what to do to take off the door panels.
Sure.
First thing I do is I usually roll the windows down all the way. Makes it easier to get your door panel off.
Okay.
I like to put tape down in areas where you think that you're gonna scratch the paint. You know, if you're gonna be using a screwdriver. I use a bone. It's a nylon stick, and it keeps
so when you pry the door panel off, you're not worried about if you use a screwdriver, you're going to scratch paint.
Correct.
So either tape or a nylon, or
Yep.
both.
Right, or both. So what I do first is I'm gonna pry this right over here up, pull this out, and I'm gonna disconnect this wires over here, and you just push down on these clips right over here. And they only go back on in one way because they're just the way they're just built. You can't screw them up. Okay, just like that. Just put that out of the way. Then what I like to do is I come down over here where there's a light and it's also a reflector, and you pop that off right there. A screw in here, and I just take that screw off. Put that off to the side, and that's all that you really need to do on that right there. Then I go over here to the front, and I just pop this out right over here. It's got the clips right over here. It goes right in here. Just pop that right out. Okay, this whole door panel's got to come out. So usually what I do is I get my bone, and I'll stick it in on a corner somewhere. Sometimes you just got to pull it really hard. Don't be afraid of it at all. Then you just lift up on it. But on some applications, you do have a screw right here, which I just about missed.
You forgot it. And I suppose we could say that if you weren't filming this, you probably have the door open a little easier.
Right. So that pops right out.
Oh, okay.
Comes
that
out
came
like
out
that.
pretty easily.
It does. Okay, on this application, you don't have to take the speaker out. You just pull back this piece right over here, and you'll see the wire right over here. So you'll have to look for the right color wire that it'll specify.
So it's the same as on the passenger side. We got to find the right color.
Correct. But before we do that, what we're going to do is, since we took the door panel off, now we could take off the door seal plate and the kick panel. The next step is to take off the seal plate on this driver's side. Just pull back on it and pull it out, like so. I'll add that to you. And then you take off the kick panel. That usually has a little piece right over here. And usually,
Why is that coming off on this side?
because you got to get to the wiring right over here also.
Okay.
Okay, right over here is where you got that piece that goes underneath the seat. It'll tell you which wire to go to from there. Okay, the next step is to take off the kick panel, and I've got that panel popper over here onto this Christmas tree that holds the kick panel into place. Thing is, just pull it out and put it off to the side. After you take off your Christmas tree, just grab your panel and just pull it off, and it'll come right out.
So now you can get the wires into the door.
Correct. But what you need to do is you got on your kit, you've got a tube
I was wondering what that was for.
Yeah, that tube, what you do is you go in from,
It's so you can thread the wires through.
thread your wires right through this wire bundle right over here. What I like to do is, there's a rubber piece that goes from the door to the kick panel. What I like to do is I like to just pull that off so that you can run your wiring through there. And I pull it off from both sides. It's so much easier to access your wires that you've got to get to. And I just pull this through right over here. Like on the passenger side, what I do is I pull this carpet up and I grab the grommet and I go underneath the vehicle and run the wires through. Like so. And run the wires through, and then I just get the grommet and put it back into place so it'll seal it. And we've got the wires running through right there. Now's a good time to just put the carpet back down like so. Okay. Next step is I'm going to run one of the purple wires into the door. There's a hole that'll come right out over here to the outside area. So what you're going to do is get a wire, one of the wires.
So you fed that plastic tube through there?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did. There's a hole back in it. It's a little tight, but you can find it. And just run your wire, your trigger wire, into the door panel. But what I'm doing is I'm running it through this plastic piece right over here, this tubing, so that it'll come out through here. And it came out through there, okay? So since I did that, I can pull that tubing out. Then I'm going to run this wire in through this rubber piece right over here. To make it easier, I cut this rubber hose in half. And then what I try to do is I try to bring it right through this piece right over here so you can run your wires through it. I fed this tube through this rubber pieces that goes from the door to the body of the truck, and I'm going to run the wire through that just as well.
So all of this is just to get one purple wire into the door panel.
Yep, exactly. Okay, I fed this purple wire through the tube and I pull it through like so, and I pull that tube back through and discard of it. Now this end of this purple wire will go into the door panel up in here, into the door, and usually I just feed it in, pick up this piece right over here and put my hand in through there and I grab it and I pull it a little tight, make sure it goes through, run it through just like so, leave a little bit of slack over here to tie it down to this area, and you've got it going right through there. Now we're going to look for the right color wire that we need to hook into.
On some vehicles, there will be more than one wire with the same color that you are looking to tap into. When you come into that problem, such as we have in this truck, you have to peel the membrane back and trace the wire all the way back to the door latch. And that is the wire that you need to tap the purple trigger wire into.
Now with this membrane pulled back, what I do is I get the wire and I kind of wrap it around it, keep it in place. And I bring it back to the trigger wire that goes up to the back latch, because there was two of the same color wires. So what I'll do is I'll look for that wire over here. It'll be a yellow wire with a black stripe, which is this one right here. And there again, I'm going to get my connector and put that through like we previously did on the other side.
So it doesn't really matter where in the door you tap into that wire?
No, not at all.
Once you've identified the proper one, you can tap in anywhere at all?
Correct, correct. So what I'll do now is I'm going to go ahead and cut this wire where I need to cut it at and strip it. Run this piece back through there and screw back into place. And that's all you have to do. Put the membrane back.
That was for the front door. Now the other purple wire, just like on the other side, needs to go to the back door.
Correct.
So you just need to figure out which wire to tap into.
Correct.
So it would say here, driver's side for the back. It is a light green with a yellow stripe.
Light green with the yellow stripe. I found it.
Excellent.
Okay, so kind of measured out my wiring right over here. I'm going to cut it. And I'll put that connector on there. Right here. Pierce the wire. Good word for it, huh? Okay, that is in where it goes.
So we can put the kick panels back on,
We could put
door panels back on.
Yeah, well, what I like to do on this point right over here, being that it's difficult to take this, sometimes.
You want to wait in case something's wrong.
Correct. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to wait on the seal plate and the kick panel on this and the door panel, and we're going to go to the next step, which is going to be putting the running board onto the links.
Makes perfect sense.
On earlier model years of the F-250, the wiring is very similar to this, but there have been some changes made. And if we run into this where you might need to install a diode, the instructions will show you. But once again, if you run into some sort of troubles that you can't work with, do call me because I will help you. I love working on these trucks.
So we are, what, about 2/3 of the way done?
Yep, we're 2/3 of the way done. I mean, we just did the hardest part, which is the wiring.
Well, it's but easily the most confusing part.
It gets very confusing, but if you just take your time, you'll go through it.
So now we just need to hook up the running boards themselves?
Correct.
You done with your lunch?
I am done.
Let's get back to work.
Thank you.
In the spirit of continuous improvement, Bestop Engineering has improved this motor. It is now completely submergible. So go ahead and mount it on your truck and back this thing into the water.
So Jimmy, over in customer support, I know that you've been handling this issue a lot, but I need you to explain this to me. You've redesigned this wedge block. What does that mean?
The wedge block is what links the motor shaft to the linkage. So this, with the motor shaft, this is what drives the board in and out.
So the motor connects to this, obviously.
Right.
Oh, I see. So what you're talking about is this little wedge keeps this from turning, like a key.
Correct.
Like any shaft on any motor.
Correct.
See how clever I am. Okay, so what's the problem?
The problem is that the shaft, or this wedge block, seats in the casting before it completely locks up to the shaft, allowing this shaft to move inside the casting.
So even when this is on the old design, even when this was clamped down all the way, this could still move a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Well, here's a good example. This one actually is moving a little.
Exactly.
So when you got the complaints, when we heard all those complaints that you were dealing with about squeaking and then even breakage, it's because of this little block?
Correct. So Bestop Engineering has redesigned this block, and now when you put this little block in here,
There it goes.
that's why they're engineering and I'm not. This gives a positive engagement. It will not allow that shaft to move anymore.
So it just, with this new block, as simple as that is, I mean, it's really just a shorter version of this.
Pretty much.
And now, no more squeaking,
No more squeaking,
no more breakage.
no more breakage. Positive engagement. The board will go up and down to complete travel.
So this isn't really a consumer part. We're really only talking to dealers when we talk about this, the people that actually install these.
Correct.
So they can get the new block from you
Yes.
if they need it,
If they need it,
and obviously all the new boards would have it.
correct.
Okay. And that would solve that big squeaking issue that people have been mentioning.
That is correct.
That's spectacular.
Isn't it amazing what a simple little part can do?
As long as it works. Jose, we are finally back at the side of the truck ready to put these boards on.
Yep.
Seems like quite a while ago that we mounted these and then got distracted with all the wiring, but now we're back. So we just need to put the board on and the motor
Correct.
and hook it up.
Right.
Let's do it.
Okay. So what we're going to do, on the back side, you got this little blocks right over here. They go right into this hole that's right over here.
Oh, they slide
Same
back,
shape.
so that's how you adjust the board
Yes.
for where you want it?
Yes. So
Okay.
what we're going to do is just kind of line it up and put it into place.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Here's a tip. Get something that's sharp, and you can just bring that block right straight back into it.
To get the holes lined up.
Yep. To get the holes lined up. And usually, what I like to do is I like to line up the back end of this board to the door right over here. To the door right over here. This back end of.
Ah, I got you.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting a screw in there and just kind of setting it into place, and I'll just hand tighten.
I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about mounting the boards to the linkages. Each linkage foot has a little groove in it, and it's very important that that groove fall inside this channel on the back of the board. This will prevent the board from tipping up and running into the rocker panel, or if you have one end that's not in the groove but the other end is, the board won't align correctly and you won't get full travel.
Now that we got the board installed onto the links, what we're going to do is check to see if we do have a free fall. It falls down freely, it doesn't bind up. Once that happens, that you see that, then you go back in and you could tighten up your linkages.
Okay, so it's bouncing around now because we left everything loose.
Yes.
But nothing is pinching, everything. So that means it's square.
Right, it's not binding or anything like that.
That looks nice, though. I mean, that's going to be really cool when we get it all done because it really disappears. Mm-hmm. That's excellent.
Yep. So now what we're going to do is let's tighten it up. And we could just tighten this up a little at a time and just kind of keep checking it. Make sure that it doesn't get bound or anything like that.
Okay, now at this step of the process, before you mount the motor, it is crucial that you test the board to make sure that the front linkage and the rear linkage are in alignment. What you must do is at the back end of this board, because this is where the motor is, and if you're doing this on another truck where the motor's at the front, the preferred method is to go to that end of the board. Take one or two fingers, push in on the board, and make sure that the board is operating smoothly. You can even let it drop, just to make sure that it bounces. That way you're assured that the system is operating smoothly and it won't bind up. Now you will find there is a lot of build variation in vehicles, and in the event of build variation you might find that you will have to do some sort of adjustments or shims. What you would do in this case is leave your motor linkage anchored and then do your shim work on the idler linkage end of it. Whether you're tipping it in and out with washers or moving it up and down through slotted holes or just oversized holes. But that should bring everything back into adjustment. But once again, it's very important, leave the motor linkage anchored, because if you keep shimming back and forth, you're going to keep chasing it instead of solving it. Another improvement that the Bestop engineering staff has come up with was adding gussets to the motor mounting bosses on these motor mounting linkages, therefore guaranteeing that these motors will not shear off of the linkage, no matter what kind of torque they run under.
So I think that's the definition of smooth, clean operation.
Correct.
So let's put a motor on.
Let's do it. Now what we're going to do is put the motor on where it belongs over here. Push the board up a little bit.
Okay.
Just like that, and I'm going to line up this bolts.
So that's, I'm just pushing this up so that you get the motor lined up?
Yeah, it'll engage into the gear,
Right.
and then you just put your bolts and
But it doesn't
start
matter that the board is now halfway up?
No, because once you put your electrical connection on here, and open the door, it'll automatically reset itself.
Oh, okay. So you don't care at this point where this board is?
No, not at all.
As long as you get that motor nice and tight.
Correct.
Jose, we missed install the lights.
Right.
It says to do that before the motor.
Yeah, I like to put the motor on first. It's so much easier for me.
Not that big of a deal?
Right.
Okay. So how do I put the lights on?
So the first thing that I do is I personally go and clean up the area where you're going to put the light. I use a little bit of alcohol and a rag.
So these use this that 3M stick-on tape.
Right.
So you've kind of got to get them right the first time.
Yeah, we try to get them right the first time.
I'll let you do it.
I'm going to put them level with this piece right over here, pretty close to level, and just put it in place like that.
Oh, well, heck, I can do that. Right there?
Yep.
Okay, sweet.
Okay, next step is install the wiring on the lights, which is usually this white one's right over here, and there's only one way that they could go on, and lock them into place. You'll hear it click. Then the next step is to get the remaining wire right over here. That goes into the motor. Install it into the motor. And we're done right there. Okay.
Right.
Next thing is I like to tie this wires back up into the body with some tiebacks, wire tiebacks.
So we're all wired?
Yes.
You've got the loom all tightened to the body?
Yes.
So this is done,
Yep.
but
Duh. We've got to put a fuse in.
we didn't put the fuse in.
Correct.
So they retracted?
Yes.
Everything's working?
Yep.
Test?
Test it.
Oh, sweet. Back door? So what's left to do?
Now we got to finish the other side.
Right,
We're going to do the same procedure on the other side that we did on this side.
right,
After we're done with that, we'll drop the truck down off the lift,
right.
and then we'll finish connecting the rest of the wiring loom onto.
We got to tighten the wires up under the hood.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And make sure that everything is nice and tight. Then make sure that the boards on that side are working. So we
So
can put the door panels back on.
to avoid making everybody repeat the process, we're going to stop the video though.
Correct.
You're just going to install the other side?
Yep.
So we're done.
Yes, sir.
Jose, thank you very much.
You're more
I
than
really
welcome.
appreciate learning about how these work. We've had these out for a while now, and I've never really completely understood all of the elements of them, to be honest.
Right. And it's actually easier than what it looks.
It
you know, just-
is. It's a little intimidating. The wiring on the door side especially was a little overwhelming for me. But watching you do that as smoothly and as simply as you did it, actually, I think I could handle this. I think I could actually maybe even install this myself.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Well, I think the biggest reason why not is that you're here. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.